Now, this will be two problems for vector addition. You can see the first problem involves three vectors, while the second problem involves four vectors. And then we're going to find the resultant vector of the following. So, you can pause this video first before we proceed with the problem solving so that as I show you the correct answers, you will be able to check kung anong step ba medyo mahirap para sa'yo and anong step yung gets mo na. Okay, so pause nyo muna to and then I'll proceed with the first problem. Kung gusto mo mag-pause, kung gusto mong dire-diretso go, kung gusto mong guided. Alright, so let's have the first problem. You have here three vectors. We're going to add them to get the resultant vector, of course. In my case, what I usually do is to draw them first separately para mas maintindihan ko kung anong itsura niya in terms of standard position. Okay? So you have your three vectors here. So for the first one, it's 30 degrees west of south. The first step, of course, is to get the standard position. So kung west of south, it is located in west of south, south papuntang west. So papunta siya dito. Okay, so this is your west of south. This is 30 degrees. So in terms of standard position from the east, this is basically 270 minus 30. So you'll be getting 240 degrees in standard position. So that's for the first one, first vector. Second vector, 20 degrees north of east. So from east going to the northern direction, so papunta siya dito. So this is 20 degrees. Remember that when you're given north of east, that's already in standard position. So this is just 20 degrees in standard position. The last one is south of east. So nandito siya from east going to the south. Wait, let me just use the violet color. Ayan. Don't mind the drawing na. This is 60 degrees south of east. So kung this is the standard position, one whole rotation is 360. Subtract the value of 60 dahil hindi naman siya umabot doon. So 360 minus 60 is equal to 300 degrees. So this is 300 degrees in standard position. So there you have it. This is the very first step is to get the standard position. I will be writing the table. So i-pause ko muna so that masulat ko na yung table dito. Okay? Alright, let's continue. So hopefully, you were able to write the table already. In my case, I will no longer be writing everything para hindi masyadong mahaba yung video. So the angle with bearing is this one. Kindly just indicate that in this table right here, yung angle with bearing. Angle in standard position, isulat natin. You have 240, 20, and then 300. So in some cases, what we usually do is also indicate kung nasa ang quadrant itong mga angle and standard position so that you'll be able to see kung yung x and y component actually agrees with the angle that you have. Kung negative 240, it's in the third quadrant, you should have both negative values, both positive, a positive x and a negative y. Okay? So this is what we are expecting in terms of our x and y component. Next step po, as you can see, is to get the x and y component. So you have 3.5 kilometer cosine 240 for x, 3.5 kilometer sine 240 for y. Again, we use cosine for x and sine for y component. So, in this case, I will no longer be writing yung 3.5 cosine 240, 3.5 sine 240. So, hopefully, you do that na lang separately. But, kung medyo nahihirapan ka, I suggest to write everything para po mabalikan mo kung saan ka nagkaroon ng error. Okay? So, if we're going to write the values, so kindly just check with me kung tama yung values mo. Sorry. X is negative 1.75. Negative 1.75. And then your y component for the first vector is negative 3.03. Wait, naka-record ba ako? Alright, sige. And then for the, you can see it's both negative kasi negative yung ano natin, nasa third quadrant siya. Next, you have 1.41 and then 0.51 and then 1.25 and negative 2.17. Okay, so this is all in kilometers. Okay, please do not forget the units because the units are very, very important. In this case, it's already assumed. O, lagyan mo na lang dito sa taas na this is in kilometers. In kilometers. Okay? I think for some other classes, sinabi naman na as long as your final answers are having the correct or appropriate units. Next step that we're going to do is to get the summation of x and summation of y. So we add them all together. Summation of x and then summation of y should be having the value of 0.91 and negative 4.69. Okay, so this is the value of your summation of x and summation of y. This is very important, as I have mentioned a lot of times, because this tells you where is the location of your resultant vector. So you have positive x and a negative y. We could say that this is in the fourth quadrant. So we could say that the direction is south of west. South of east. Okay, so this is our, this should be the bearing and this should be the location of our resultant vector. So, moving on, we have the following steps na nga. We will get now the resultant magnitude of the resultant vector, which is the square root of summation of x squared plus summation of y squared. So your vector, your magnitude of the resultant vector should be equivalent to 4.78, and then the unit is kilometers. So ayan. So hopefully tama yung mga nakukuha natin, ha. So kung mali, pause ka, tapos balik ka dun sa kung saan ka na mali, so that pagbalik mo, magigets na natin yung nangyayari. Now, next po, we get now the angle. The angle is the tan inverse of summation of y over summation of x. So, this is just a tan inverse of negative 4.69 over 0.91. So, the angle that you will be getting is 79 point negative 79.02. Okay, so yan yung angle na nakuha natin. So before we proceed with writing the angle with bearing and the angle in standard position, we first proceed with illustrating where negative 79.02 is. So negative 79.02 is a clockwise direction, follows a clockwise direction. So negative 79.02 is located in the fourth quadrant, or we could just say that this is 79.02 south of east. Okay? So let's check, do we still need to use a vertical angle in this case? Hindi na, dahil nasa fourth quadrant na rin siya, south of east yung na-expect natin, and nag-agree na yung angle natin. Okay? So the angle with bearing becomes 79.02 degrees south of east. Okay? So that's your angle with bearing. And then your angle in standard position from the east is 360 minus 79.02. Sir, pwede bang gamitin ko na lang negative 79.02 ang standard position? Okay lang po. It doesn't matter as long as the standard position is correct. But we are following a counterclockwise standard para uniform tayo lahat. So this is 280.98 degrees in standard position. So this is your angle in SP. So your final answer, masusulat ko pa ba yung final answer? Oh, wait lang. Final answer is, your vector R is 4.78 kilometers, 79.02 degrees south of east, and 280.98 degrees in standard position. So hopefully you're able to get the same answer that I got. So if we're going to check this, kung titingnan natin to, you can see, this is the first step. Find the standard position. Next step is to get the x and y component, get the summation, tingnan kung nasaan yung location niya, get the resultant vector, get the angle, angle with bearing, standard position, final answer. So these are like, in my case, ito yung mga steps na fina-follow ko para mas madali ko siyang maintindihan. So these are the answers. This is the answer, I mean, for the first problem. Okay? So hopefully you got the same response. Okay po, next problem naman tayo. Wait, pakita muna natin, paano sir kung i-illustrate mo to, ah, mag-a-agree pa rin ba na ganun yung drawing niya? Sige. If we're going to illustrate this, kung rough estimate lang, ano ba yan? Kung rough estimate lang, this is, um, this is vector A, vector B, and then vector C. So, parang ganyan yung itsura niya. And then, the resultant vector is here. So, you can see, south of east pa rin siya. It's in the fourth quadrant. So, that is your resultant vector. So, tama pa rin siya. So, ito, parang rough draft ng graphical method. Okay? Sige, let's proceed with the second problem. So, here on the second problem po, you have now 4 vectors. We're going first to identify the standard positions. Again, as I've mentioned, mas madaling i-illustrate siya ng separately bago mo muna makuha yung mga components niya. So, A, B, C, and D. Let's first start with the first vector. You have northwest, as I've mentioned in the previous videos as well as in our synchronous session. When we say northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, this is the angle which is equivalent to 45. Pero saan siya nakalocate? So when we say northwest, same pa rin naman siya, para siyang north of west. Yung last mong pinuntahan, yung last direction is where it's coming from, and then the first direction is where it's going, or where is it actually, what is the final position. So parang west going to north. So this is 45. This is 45 kasi north of west. So, to get the standard position from the east, this is just 180 minus 35. So, the angle in standard position is 135 degrees in SP. Okay? Next po is east of north. So, from north going to east, nandito siya. So, to get the standard position, we subtract 90 minus 30. So, this angle is 60 degrees, 60, 25 pala. Okay, mali pala yun. Wala pala kasi nakalagay dito. This is 25. Okay, 25 degrees. And then, 5. Okay na, nasulat ko na siya. Kalimutan lang po, this is 25 degrees east of north. So, going back, this is 25 degrees. So, 90 minus 25 will give you 65 degrees in standard position. Okay? Alright. And then, the third vector, we have 5 degrees south of east. South of east ay nandito. Okay? So, from standard position, you have, if this is 5 degrees, 360 minus 5 is 355 degrees in standard position. And then, the last one is south of west. So, this one is here. To get this is how many? 75. So, to get the standard position, 180 plus 75. Ang makukuha natin ay 255 in standard position. Again, this is the very, very first step that we do. And it's essential to get the correct response. Kasi mamali ka lang sa standard position, definitely the components would be wrong and then your summation would be incorrect as well. So, I'll pause this. Baka ang makikita nyo na next ay yung table. Okay? Okay. So, you have now your table with the 4 vectors and then kung anong ilalagay natin. First, angle with bearing, as I've mentioned, kayo na lang, complete na lang tong angle with bearing. Let's write the angle in standard position. You have 135 for vector A, 65, 355, and then 255. We are expecting that 135 is in the second quadrant, so negative and positive. Both positive. Fourth quadrant, positive, negative. 255 is third quadrant, so negative, negative. So in this case, I'm doing this so that I could recheck if the x and y components agrees with the value na meron ako dito. So, hindi ko na ulit ipapakita po. So, pakisolve na lang yung 125 cosine, 135, 125 sine, 135. But you should be getting all these values in terms of getting the x and y component. So, ito ay negative 88.39 and then 88.39. Bakit siya parehas? Kasi 45 yung angle mo. Next, 65. So, you can see negative and positive. Tama. 65 degrees is 84.52 and then 181.26. 355 ay nasa fourth quadrant. 249.05 and negative 21.79. The same pa rin siya. And then, dapat negative bares na values naman dito. Negative 38.82 and negative 144.89. Okay, so hopefully, again, you're getting the same values that I got. So, next is the summation of x and summation of y. So, we add them to get the x and y components of the resultant vector. So, x is 206.36. That's in meters. And then, summation of y is 102.97. What can we observe in the summation of x and summation of y? They both have positive component. It means that they are in the first quadrant and your direction is north of east. Okay, so we're going to check this mamaya sa graphical and then end our solution din sa sunod. Okay, next. Then we now proceed with solving for the resultant vector, which is magnitude of the resultant vector. The square root of summation of x squared plus summation of y squared. So, 206.36 squared plus 102.97 squared. Your resultant vector should be 230.62 meters. Dapat yan na makuha natin. And then, solving for the angle, you have the tan inverse of 102.97, which is your y, and then your x is 206.36. Okay? Hindi ko naman napakita yung step by step, but definitely in the exams as well as the summative test, ipakita nyo pa rin po. Okay? Diretso na lang ginagawa ko. You'll be getting 26.52 degrees. So, it's positive. So, bago tayo mag-bearing, i-drawing muna natin yung 26.52. Let's illustrate. That's now counterclockwise, 26.52 degrees. Or, since counterclockwise, it's also in the first quadrant, 26.52 degrees north of east. Now, do we have to use vertical angles at this point? Definitely hindi na dahil balikan lang natin itong may violet na nakabilog. Q1 dapat daw siya nasa positive ang x and y and then north of east siya. So, tingnan natin. Ayan, you don't need anymore to use your vertical angle. So, your angle with bearing is 26.52 degrees north of east. Angle in standard position, as I've mentioned a couple of times, north of east is already in standard position. So, 26.52 degrees in standard position. Ayan. So, your final answer will be vector R is 230.62 meters, 26.52 degrees north of east, 26.52 degrees in standard position. So, you can see, kung paulit-ulit mo na siyang ginagawa, actually, napakadali niya na lang. Alright, sige. Sir, gusto kong makita yung rough estimate or rough graphical version ng vectors or yung pag-add natin ng vectors. Sige, papakita natin. So, the first vectors, I'll just use color blue again. So, nandito siya. Vector A plus vector B plus vector C plus vector D. Okay? So, your resultant vector is here going to this direction. So, makikita nyo, first quadrant pa rin. North of east yung direction. And then, yan. Nag-agree na siya. 232.6 to 26.52. Rough estimate lang to ha. So, kung magiging mas strict tayo, nandito yan sa may ganyan. Kung 26.52. Okay? Sige. So, hopefully you're able to get the correct answers po. So, yung mga nagdiretso na napanoorin to, hindi makopya ka na lang. Pero kung gusto mo po
isolve mo na muna siya kasi pwede mo man siyang balikan, mas madali man mag-wipe out. Okay po? So, thank you very much. If you have any questions, just ask your teachers for clarification. Bye-bye!